The world stopped spinning that Sunday morning, not with a bang, but with a primal scream that tore from the deepest parts of my being. It was 4 a.m., and the only light filtering through my bedroom window in a quiet suburban street of Americana, Massachusetts, was the cold, indifferent glow of a street lamp. My waters had broken an hour earlier, an undeniable gush that had me scrambling, heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. My contractions, initially a dull ache, had swiftly escalated into an agonizing vice, each one squeezing the breath from my lungs and the hope from my spirit. I was 34, alone, and terrifyingly my baby was coming. My journey to that terrifyingly solitary moment began long before the first contraction. It had been a whirlwind of dreams and then a brutal descent into a nightmare. My husband, Michael, and I had been high school sweethearts, our lives meticulously planned since we were teenagers. A small house, 2 kids, a dog, the quintessential American dream. We'd bought our starter home in Americana 3 years ago, a cozy, slightly too small place with a patch of green for a backyard. When I found out I was pregnant 7 months ago, it was the culmination of everything we'd ever wanted. We'd picked out names, painted the nursery a soft buttercup yellow, and spent hours poring over baby books, our hands intertwined, imagining our future. Then the floor fell out from under me. It started subtly, a growing distance, late nights, hushed phone calls. I tried to ignore the gnawing fear, attributing it to pregnancy hormones, to stress, to anything but the truth that was staring me in the face. But denial can only last so long. I found out about Sarah, a colleague from Michael's office, in the most cliched way possible. A text message left open on his phone. The words were a knife to my gut, shattering not just my marriage, but my entire carefully constructed world. The confrontation was explosive, ugly, and swift. There were no grand apologies, no desperate pleas for forgiveness. Just a cold, hard admission and the casual cruelty of, "I'm not happy, Anna." He packed a bag that night, leaving me with a hollow ache in my chest and the undeniable truth that I was now facing motherhood alone. The next few weeks were a blur of tears, legal consultations, and the crushing weight of betrayal. Every ultrasound, every kick, every flutter that should have brought joy was now tainted with a bitter sadness. My parents, bless their hearts, lived 3 states away in Arizona. They had been incredibly supportive, offering to fly out, but I, in my stubborn pride and desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of control, insisted I could manage. "I'm a strong woman, Mom," I told her, the words ringing hollow even to my own ears. "I'll be fine." I wasn't. Money, always a silent stressor, became a roaring monster. Michael had always handled the finances, and suddenly I was drowning in bills, the mortgage looming like a guillotine. My part-time job as a freelance graphic designer, once a creative outlet, became a frantic scramble to make ends meet. The stress was relentless, a constant companion that stole my sleep and dulled my appetite. I was eating less, sleeping even less, and the constant anxiety was taking its toll on my body, already under immense strain from pregnancy. Then came the medical complications. At 7 months, during a routine checkup, my OBGYN, Dr. Evans, looked at me with a worried frown. "Anna," she began gently, "your blood pressure is unusually high and we're seeing some signs of preeclampsia. We need to monitor this very closely. And the baby, Hadassah, she's measuring a little small for her gestational age." The words hit me like a physical blow. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my baby, my precious Hadassah, was now at risk. I was put on strict bed rest, told to avoid all stress, an ironic command given my circumstances. The solitude was the worst. The nursery, once a symbol of hope, became a painful reminder of my shattered dreams. I spent my days on the couch watching mindless television, my hand instinctively resting on my swollen belly, talking to Hadassah, apologizing for the chaos, promising her a better life, even as my own felt like it was crumbling around me. My friends tried to help, bringing over meals, offering to run errands, but I pushed them away, retreating further into my shell of grief and fear. I didn't want their pity, I didn't want to be a burden. I just wanted Michael back, or at least the life we had planned. As the due date approached, a new kind of anxiety set in. I'd read all the books, taken all the classes, but the idea of giving birth alone without Michael by my side was a constant terror. My birth plan, once filled with soothing music and aromatherapy, was now a crumpled, tear-stained mess. Dr. Evans had scheduled an induction for the following week, a precaution due to my preeclampsia and Hadassah's small size. I clung to that date, that plan, as if it were a lifeline. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. That Saturday night I felt a strange dull ache in my lower back, nothing alarming, just a persistent throb. I dismissed it as Braxton Hicks or just the usual aches and pains of late pregnancy. I tried to sleep, but the discomfort grew, gradually intensifying. By 3 a.m., the aches had morphed into undeniable contractions, sharp and sudden, gripping my entire abdomen. I tried to time them, fumbling for my phone, but they were too close, too intense, too overwhelming to track accurately. Panic, cold and unyielding, began to set in. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not now, not alone. I tried to call Michael, a desperate, irrational hope that he would somehow appear, but his phone went straight to voicemail. My parents were asleep, thousands of miles away. My best friend Sarah was out of town. I was truly, utterly alone. The pain intensified, each contraction a wave crashing over me, stealing my breath. I tried to get up to get to my car, but my legs felt like lead. The urge to push, a primal, undeniable force, began to assert itself. No, I thought, not yet. It's too early. I'm not at the hospital. I'm not ready. But my body was no longer listening to my mind. I stumbled to the bathroom, the fear a cold knot in my stomach. I saw myself in the mirror, pale and sweaty, my eyes wide with terror. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I tried to call 911, my fingers fumbling on the keypad, my voice a strangled whisper between gasps. I think I'm in labor. I can't get to the hospital. The dispatcher's voice was calm, reassuring, a stark contrast to the chaos inside me. Ma'am, where are you? What's your address? I managed to give her the information, then dropped the phone, clutching my belly as another searing contraction ripped through me. I sank to the floor, my back against the cold tile, the pain a monstrous entity consuming me whole. The screams were involuntary, guttural, ripping from my throat. I could hear them echoing in the small house, a testament to my agony and fear. I heard a faint knocking at the door, then pounding, then urgent voices. My neighbors, I thought vaguely, must have heard me. I tried to call out to tell them to come in, but my voice was lost in another scream. The world was narrowing to a single point of excruciating pain, and all I could focus on was the immense pressure, the undeniable urge to push. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang and then the sound of splintering wood. The door. Someone was coming in. Through a haze of pain, I saw two figures in uniform, their faces grim but determined. Police officers. My mind, still grappling with the surreal nature of the situation, registered the blue of their uniforms, the glint of their badges. Ma'am, one of them, a tall, broad-shouldered man, said, his voice deep and calm. We're here to help. What's happening? I couldn't speak, could only point weakly to my swollen belly, to the floor beneath me already damp with fluids. And then another wave hit, harder, faster, more intense than anything I had ever experienced. I bore down instinctively, primitively, and let out a guttural roar. Oh my God, the other officer, a younger woman with kind eyes, gasped. She's crowning. For a moment that stretched into an eternity, the three of us were frozen in a surreal tableau. Me on the floor, caught in the throes of a pain so immense it felt like my body was splitting in two. And them, two police officers, their hands instinctively hovering near their belts, their faces a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. The world narrowed to the space between us, thick with my ragged breaths and the unspoken terror of the moment. Then the training, the instinct, whatever it is that makes people run toward chaos instead of away from it, kicked in. The woman, Officer Russo, was the first to move. Her eyes, which I'd registered as kind, were now wide but focused. She knelt beside me, careful not to touch, her voice cutting through my pain-fogged haze. Dispatch, we have an imminent birth at this location. I repeat, the baby is crowning. We need paramedics here now. The man, Officer Miller, was already shedding his heavy police jacket, his movements economical and precise. He knelt in front of me, his gaze direct and incredibly calm. It was the first anchor I'd had in hours, a point of stillness in my swirling storm of panic. Ma'am, he said, his voice a low, steady baritone that commanded attention. My name is Officer Miller. This is my partner, Officer Russo. We're going to help you, okay? Can you tell me your name? Anna, I managed to gasp, the name a foreign sound on my lips. Hey Anna. You're doing great, he said, and the absurd sincerity in his voice almost made me laugh. A hysterical bubble of sound that died in my throat as another contraction seized me. I arched my back, a strangled cry escaping me. "Okay, Anna, we need to get you into a better position," Officer Miller said, his tone unwavering. "The floor is too hard and cold. Can we help you to the living room? Just a few feet." It seemed like an impossible task, like asking me to climb a mountain. But their presence, their calm authority, gave me a sliver of strength I didn't know I possessed. With Officer Russo supporting one arm and Officer Miller the other, I staggered, half crawling the few feet to the living room rug. Officer Russo was a blur of motion, grabbing cushions from the couch, a clean blanket from the linen closet I'd pointed to. They were creating a makeshift delivery bed in the middle of my floor, the soft yellow light from the nursery spilling out into the room, a silent, poignant witness to the unfolding drama. "Dispatch says to have her lie back, head and shoulders elevated," Officer Russo relayed, her phone pressed between her ear and shoulder. "And we need to get her pants off." Humiliation warred with the sheer force of my labor. These were strangers, men in uniform, and I was at my most vulnerable, my most exposed. But there was no judgment in their eyes, only a focused concern that transcended everything else. With as much dignity as I could muster and with their gentle help, I was ready. Officer Miller positioned himself at my feet, his expression one of complete concentration. "Okay, Anna," he said, his eyes meeting mine. "I have 2 kids. I've been in that delivery room. I'm not a doctor, but I've seen this before. You are not alone. We're right here with you. When you feel the urge to push, you push. You listen to your body. We've got you." His words were a balm to my frayed nerves. He wasn't just a cop, he was a father. He understood. The fear didn't vanish, but it loosened its icy grip on my heart. For the first time all night I felt a flicker of hope. The next 20 minutes were a blur of primal effort. Officer Russo knelt by my side, wiping my forehead with a cool, damp cloth she'd found, her voice a constant stream of encouragement. "You're doing amazing, Anna. You're so strong. Just breathe. That's it, just like that." She relayed instructions from the paramedic on the line, her voice a bridge to the medical world I so desperately needed. "They say to support the head as it comes out. Don't go. Just guide it." Officer Miller became my coach, my rock. His calm voice guided me through each earth-shattering contraction. "Okay, here comes another one, Anna. Take a deep breath. Now bear down. Push right here," he said, his hand gesturing towards my abdomen. "You've got this. You're bringing your baby into the world." And in that moment something shifted inside me. The self-pity, the anger at Michael, the terror of my solitude, it all burned away in the fire of childbirth. There was only this moment, this monumental task. My body knew what to do, and for the first time I trusted it. I pushed with a strength born of desperation and a fierce, burgeoning love for the tiny person I was about to meet. "I can see the head, Anna. I can see her head," Officer Russo cried out, her voice filled with awe. "That's it, a little more," Miller urged, his hands steady and waiting. "Easy now, just a small push." I gave one final guttural push, and then an incredible, shocking sensation of release. A wave of relief so profound it left me breathless. For a heartbeat there was silence. A terrifying, absolute silence. My baby was born, but she wasn't crying. Panic, sharp and piercing, shot through me. "Why isn't she crying?" I sobbed, my voice cracking. "Is she okay?" Officer Miller didn't hesitate. Following the instructions Russo was frantically relaying, he gently took the tiny, slippery body in his large, capable hands. "Come on, little one," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. He used his finger to gently clear her mouth and nose. The seconds stretched on, each one a lifetime of fear. And then it came. A tiny, sputtering cough, followed by a lusty, indignant wail that filled the entire house. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. The tears I'd been holding back streamed down my face, not of pain or fear but of pure, unadulterated joy. "She's perfect, Anna," Officer Russo whispered, her own eyes shining with tears. "She's absolutely perfect." Officer Miller carefully laid my daughter on my chest. She was so small, so warm, her tiny body slick against mine. Her cries softened to whimpers as she felt my heartbeat. I looked down at her perfect, wrinkled face, her shock of dark hair, and a love so powerful, so all-consuming washed over me, healing all the broken places inside. She was here. My Hadassah was here. She was safe. As if on cue, the wail of approaching sirens grew louder, a welcome sound now, not an intrusion. I looked from my daughter's face to the two officers. They were no longer just cops who had answered a distress call. They were a part of our story, the unlikely heroes who had stood in the gap when I was at my most broken. They had delivered my daughter. They had delivered me. In the middle of my living room, surrounded by strangers who had become saviors, my new life had just begun. The flashing red and blue lights that had once seemed so alarming now painted the walls of my small home in hues of rescue and relief. The paramedics who entered were a whirlwind of calm efficiency, their practiced movements a stark contrast to the beautiful chaos that had just unfolded. They spoke in low, reassuring tones, checking my vitals, assessing Hadassah, and preparing us for the journey to the hospital. Through it all, Officer Miller and Officer Russo stood back, their presence a silent, protective watch. As the paramedics carefully lifted me onto a gurney, my daughter nestled securely in my arms, my eyes found Officer Miller's. I couldn't form the words, my throat was tight with an emotion too vast to name, but I hoped my expression conveyed the universe of gratitude I felt. He simply nodded, a small, genuine smile touching his lips. "You did all the hard work, Anna," he said quietly. "Congratulations." The trip to Americana General Hospital was a blur. The sterile smell of the ambulance, the rhythmic beep of monitors, the gentle rocking of the vehicle, it all faded into the background. My entire world had shrunk to the tiny 7-pound being sleeping on my chest. I studied every detail of her face, the delicate arch of her eyebrows, the rosebud mouth, the impossibly long lashes resting on her cheeks. The pain of the past 9 months, the sting of betrayal, the crushing weight of loneliness, it all seemed to belong to another lifetime, to another woman. The woman holding this baby was new. She was a mother. At the hospital we were met with a flurry of activity. Nurses and doctors whisked us into a private room, their professionalism a comforting blanket. They examined Hadassah from head to toe, pronouncing her perfectly healthy, a miracle baby, one nurse whispered, smiling at me. My OBGYN Dr. Evans arrived shortly after, her face a mask of astonishment when she heard the story. "On the floor? With police officers?" she exclaimed before breaking into a wide grin. "Well, Anna, you are officially the strongest patient I have." The tests on me confirmed what I already felt in my soul. Despite the high stress and preeclampsia, the birth had been uncomplicated. We were both safe. We were both okay. The next day, as the morning sun streamed into my quiet hospital room, there was a soft knock on the door. I expected a nurse, but when the door opened, Officer Miller and Officer Russo stood there out of uniform holding a small gift bag. They looked different, softer, without the imposing gear of their profession. Just two kind people. We didn't want to intrude," Officer Russo said, a shy smile on her face. "But we wanted to see how you and the little one were doing." "Please come in," I said, my voice thick with emotion. I gestured to the small armchair. "I'm so glad you came. I never got to properly thank you." "No thanks necessary, Anna," Officer Miller said, his voice as steady as it had been on my living room floor. "We were just doing our jobs." "It was more than a job," I insisted, my eyes welling up. "You were my heroes. You saved us." Officer Russo handed me the gift bag. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a small, fluffy teddy bear. It was wearing a tiny, custom-made police vest with a little badge sewn on. I let out a watery laugh, clutching the bear to my chest. "It's perfect," I whispered. They stayed for a little while, asking about Hadassah's weight and length, sharing small, normal stories that felt wonderfully out of place given how we'd met. Officer Miller told me about his 2 teenage sons and how they'd both given his wife just as much trouble during their deliveries. Officer Russo, who was younger and didn't have kids yet, admitted that it was the most incredible and terrifying call she'd ever been on. "I don't think I'll ever forget it," she said, her gaze fixed on Hadassah sleeping in her bassinet. When they left, the room felt quieter but no longer empty. It was filled with the lingering warmth of their kindness. I looked at the teddy bear, then at my daughter, and I knew the story of her birth would never be one of trauma. It would be a story of hope, of how in the darkest, most terrifying moment of my life, when I felt utterly abandoned by the person who was supposed to love me most, 2 complete strangers showed up and became my family. In the days that followed, something inside me settled. The lingering ghost of Michael's betrayal began to fade, not with forgiveness, but with a profound sense of clarity. His absence on that night was the final definitive proof that our chapter was over. He had chosen to walk away, and in doing so he had missed the single most important moment of our lives. That was his loss, not mine. My life was no longer defined by what I had lost, but by what I had gained. I had gained Hadassah. And I had gained a strength I never knew I possessed. I had faced the ultimate fear, giving birth alone, and I had not only survived but I had triumphed with the help of two unexpected angels in blue. Life has a way of throwing you into the deep end when you least expect it. One moment you're following a carefully drawn map, and the next you're lost in the wilderness without a compass. My wilderness was a cold floor at 4 a.m., facing the beautiful, terrifying reality of bringing a child into this world alone. The night I thought would break me, the night I felt the most abandoned and terrified I have ever been, became the night that remade me. It taught me that our greatest strength isn't found in the plans we make, but in how we react when those plans are torn to shreds. It also taught me that heroes are real. They aren't always in movies and they don't wear capes. Sometimes they're the police officers who break down your door not to cause harm, but to hold your hand. They're the strangers who see you at your absolute worst and choose to meet you there with compassion and grace. The world can feel dark and lonely sometimes, but there is so much good, so much light in the most unexpected places. My daughter's birth story will forever be a testament to that. It will be a story of how, on a quiet Sunday morning in Americana, the police helped me have my baby, and in doing so they helped me find a strength I never knew I had. If this story touched your heart, or if you've ever had an experience where a stranger showed you incredible kindness when you needed it most, I would love to hear about it. Please share your story in the comments below. Your experiences give hope to all of us. And if you'd like to hear more stories of hope, resilience, and the power of human connection, please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. You are not alone and your story matters.